All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is April 21st, 2025. My name is John Kerrigan. I'm the lead instructor here at BYOB This is the trades in review. Let's take a peek at the market today. Let's see what happened. Before we head any further, I want to congratulate Mel. Mel increased her trading account by 7%. Way to go, Mel. And all the other winners in the room today. I did 2%. Didn't do quite as good as Mel. Started out with a brand new 27K account. Way to go, Mel. Way to go. Awesome trading. All right, let's take a peek at the market. All right, we had a 15-minute. All right. We blocked off the first 15 minutes. We have a break right here of the first. This is a 5-minute chart. All right, 5-minute chart. We have a red erases green situation or a breakout of the 15-minute chart. Price action entered into a 10-minute downtrend throughout most of the day until about 3 o'clock. And then we got a higher low. And then we rallied back to VWAP right up here. All right, so 10-minute downtrend throughout most of the day. Nice $10 drop or $8 drop all the way down to, I don't know, 508.50 right there. All right, so 10-minute, you can see here's a 10-minute downtrend. See the yellow 3 EMA underneath the white 8 EMA. It's 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. VWAP is the brown line. You can see all three price action candles, the 3 EMA, the 8 EMA, all underneath this falling 17 EMA, all the way down into 508.50 area. All right, a little pullback to VWAP, and it looks like nice spike candle over VWAP. So there's SPY on the 10-minute downtrend. That's our flagship trade. Made a lot of money today. I made 2 daily goals. Other people made 2 daily goals. Some people made 7 daily goals like Mel. Other people made some green. Everybody seemed to have done well here with the 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. So into the close, we got a 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. On the 2-hour chart, still have a 2-hour downtrend coming into the close. On the daily chart, all right, lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap, under falling 17, underneath the uptrend line, underneath the downtrend line, on the scratch or on the quad lines. Price action down here in the lower third, that's bearish. All right, we got lower targets for tomorrow: 503.68, 497.38 for lower targets for tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. So there's a daily chart of the SPY. Okay, still in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows. All right, in order to negate the downtrend, it's got to take out this high at the top of this big green candle. All right, so we're a long ways off from that. All right, so you can see we're down here in the lower third. So that's bearish in a downtrend and looking like an H pattern rollover right here. So there's SPY on the daily chart. Let's take a look at QQQ. QQQ, again, on the 10-minute chart, you had a nice 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. Totally a tradable event right there. That's one of our flagship trades. Right down into double bottom right here at 428. Price action, 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. Take a look at it on the daily chart. Daily chart, lower high, just like SPY, lower high, lower low. Closing under the bearish trap, under the falling 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, under the midpoint. Down here in quadrant 1, that's bearish in a downtrend. Lower highs, lower lows, that's a downtrend. Let's take a look at FNGA. FNGA, we've got a lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, under the falling 17, quadrant 1. That's bearish underneath the falling 17, underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, underneath the midpoint, quadrant 1. That's bearish. lower highs, lower lows. That's a downtrend. Let's take a look at IWM. IWM, lower high, lower low, closing under a trap, under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, under the midpoint, quadrant 1, that's bearish, lower high, lower lows, that's a downtrend. All right, let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap. You can see the 3 underneath the 8 EMA, under a trap, under the falling 17, that's a red dots, under the downtrend line right there. So that's a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows. That's a downtrend. Again, in a downtrend, and down here in quadrant 1, that's bearish. All right, so there's Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at technicals, T2122. All right, you can see we got popped right out of the buyer's chop zone yesterday. Nothing but consolidation, on Thursday. So nothing but consolidation Thursday. And you can see we had a breakout of the consolidation straight down into the seller's chop zone, where we put in a lower low and then a lower high. And then from there, we went airborne almost over the sell zone, right into the oversold zone. Managed to meander back and forth across the threshold a couple times. And then price action winds up spending most of the day in the oversold zone, only to finish in the sell zone at the end of the day. Again, price action giving you the middle finger up here, okay, and you wind up down here, okay? So that's what happens, all right? Price action. Price action for T2123, 15-minute, okay? Again, we got the comatose flat line cardiac arrest here on T2123, okay? And I can already see price action unable to make higher highs, selling from the beginning of the day almost to the end of the day. All right, we were up over the 200 SMA on Thursday prior to the 3-day weekend, came back from the 3-day weekend, and now we're underneath the falling 200 SMA. 3 green candle bars at the end of the day, selling from the beginning almost to the end. No higher highs, no bearish gaps getting filled. All right, bullish gaps are getting filled. No higher highs. You can see it's starting to melt. Got a lower low here from the base, getting a little lower low from the lower low right here. All right. What happens is in these bear flags is when investors or institutions don't see price bouncing back, they start to have worries. And then what happens is they don't want to be holding it when the music stops, okay? So what happens is they start selling off what they got. And here you see price action starting to sell off again. We could see another wave lower. All right, this is the last price action. Price action came down into a bear flag, went into cardiac arrest. And you can see ever so slightly we began making lower lows. And then here's some more lower lows. And then, of course, selling begets more selling. And then you wind up with a wave down to the downside. Okay, so we got a bull flag in our bear flag. That was about the only good thing that happened. We were up over the 200 SMA at the open or at the close on Thursday. And now we find ourselves back under the falling 200 SMA. All right, in the bear flag. Again, no V bottom. Here's the beginning of a V bottom. Didn't go far. Didn't go far enough to keep investors influenced into buying. And as you can see, price action just flatline across to the right. That is another big bear flag. You get too long in the fabric and people start to give up hope. All right. And then they start to dump whatever they're holding. All right, so there's T21.23. T21.23 3 bar. Okay, you can see here's the V bottom right there. All right, notice we didn't get any V bottom. We got the hockey stick. Price action comes down, holds the lower ground. Investors give up hope and they start getting rid of it. And then selling begets more selling. Price action creates another hockey stick bear flag. All right, if we linger too long, same thing will happen again. All right, so we're caught underneath the falling 200 SMA. Here's two prior all-time highs. We're no longer near them where we were before. Here's the all-time high. You can see price action is giving up hopes of bullishness. Again, we're not filling any bearish gap. See, here's a bearish gap not getting filled. Okay, this bearish gap got filled. All right, but now we're starting to give up hope 7 days later. Okay, another bearish gap not filled, another bearish gap not filled. Okay, no higher highs, no bearish gaps getting filled. People, investors start to give up hope. No V bottom. All right, that's what we're looking for, V bottom. Instead, we go into cardiac arrest, flat line all the way across on the EKG. Investors are probably going to give up hope, probably going to have another wave of selling to the downside. We'll see. Earnings are coming in tomorrow night, starting with Netflix after the close. Then we've got Google, almost $3.5 trillion of market cap. Okay, and that's going to report Thursday night. All right, so that's what's happening. FNGA. All right, we were up over the 200 SMA. You can see nothing but selling from the beginning almost to the end, except for the last three candle bars there. We managed to make it up over VWAP and kind of hold that area for one candle. Again, we got a bearish gap that didn't get filled. We got selling, all right? Price action spent most of the time underneath the falling 17, okay? What's the dominant color here in the last 2 or 3 days? It's been red, okay? Price action caught underneath the 200 SMA right there, caught underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP. Notice we got a bearish gap here that didn't get filled. We got a bearish gap here that didn't get filled. We got a bearish gap here that didn't get filled. No higher highs. I don't see any sign of the bulls anywhere. All right, and if this keeps up, we're going to get more selling begets more selling. So there's FNGA. Let's take a look at some sectors. First sector, XLE. Here's our energy sector. Price action, lower high, lower low, down in quadrant 1. That's bearish. See that? Closing underneath the bearish trap. The 3 is underneath the 8. That makes it a bearish trap. Closing underneath, falling 17. Closing underneath, downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, all-time high anchored VWAP. Down here, quadrant 1, making lower highs and lower lows. That's a downtrend. Okay, there's XLE. Let's take a look at USO. All right, USO, lower high, lower low, closing over a bullish trap under the falling 17, under this 3-year high anchored VWAP. Okay, no longer in the lower third. Okay, so it's not bearish, it's neutral. Okay, you go up, you give it up, you're neutral. If you go down and you give it up, you're also neutral. All right, so price action, just neutral through here. Still underneath the falling 17, underneath the 3-year high anchored VWAP, and that starts back at 2022. That's the post-COVID high. Underneath the midpoint, still in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows. All right, so that's USO. Let's take a look at UNG. Lower high, lower low, closing underneath 12-month high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line. Closing underneath uptrend line. That's the gold line right here. Closing underneath the bearish trap, underneath the falling 17. Down here in the lower third. That's bearish. All right, UNG, bearish. GLD, all right, GLD puts in new all-time high, hit my target, 316 today, sold off my calls and took my profit. Okay, so there's gold, 316. Again, new all-time high, doesn't get any better than that. Let's take a look at SLV. SLV got a higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the hooking 17. See how the colors turn from red back to green, closing up over it, over the hooking 17, up over. This is a 12-year high anchored VWAP that doubles as a 6-month high anchored VWAP. So price action closing in the upper third of the quad lines. Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, Quadrant 4. Okay, so that's bullish up there in the upper third. Lower third bearish, upper third bullish, middle ground neutral. All right, so there's silver. Still in a downtrend, all right, because we made lower lows. See, here's a low, we made a lower low. There's 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 a low, we made a lower low. See, really technically damaged right there. All right, we took out 1, 2, 3, 5 lows. All right, in a 3-day move, 2-day move right there. All right, so in order to negate the downtrend, they're going to have to take out that high. All right, it's a tall order. We'll see if they can do it. All right. Again, it's just a label. They're in a downtrend, but let me just say this. They're not moving down. They're moving up. All right, so it's very possible they could negate the downtrend. We'll see what happens. Let's take a look at SMH. It's our semiconductors to see how the market's doing. All right, we always look to technology to lead us out of recessions, depressions, downturns, and downtrends. All right, SMH, no sign of a turnaround. Lower high, lower low, closing under a trap. Underneath the 17 EMA, see the red dots? It's a falling 17 down there in quadrant 1. That's bearish, making lower highs and lower lows. All right, that's a downtrend, and we're in quadrant 1, bearish. Underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP, that's the pink line. All right, let's go look at the big brother. All right, that's the XLK. Technology, the big brother to the SMH. Lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, under the falling 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's the pink line. And then under this gold line, that's the uptrend line. Right there, see the uptrend line? Under the uptrend line, down here, quadrant 1, that's bearish. Let's take a look at XLF. Here's the financials, lower high, lower low, closing under a trap, under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's the pink line. Under the midpoint is neutral. All right, you go up, give it up, then neutral. You go down, you give it up, you're neutral. Okay, XLF. IYT. Transports, lower high, lower low, closing under the bearish trap. See, the 3 is underneath the white line, underneath the bearish trap, underneath the falling 17, underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's a pink line. All the way down here, quadrant 1, that's bearish. Okay, you go up, you give it up, that's neutral. You go up, you give it up and more, that's bearish. All right, so there's IYT, bearish, and in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows. Okay, no signs of the bulls yet. All right, I'll take questions in the room if there's none. We're going to wrap this up. I got coaching at 5 with somebody, and I will see you guys all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Roger says RBRK. Let's take a look. RBRK. Daily chart, you're making lower lows and lower highs, so that's downtrend right there. quad lines. You're under the midpoint, so you're still neutral right there. As far as this goes, still neutral. On the 2-hour chart, you're about to get a 2-hour downtrend that has not made a lower low yet. All right, but it's looking like a triple top across the top here, quadruple top right there. And looking like this is resistance right there. See how this comes down and this is price comes up right there. So you were in an uptrend on our BRK. You're no longer in that uptrend because you can see you got a 2-hour, you got a low here, and you just made a lower low today. Okay, so that's 2-hour downtrend right there. And price action, the dominant color for today was obviously red, and then you had a nice green bullish engulfing. All right, if they can't get it back up here and wipe out these 4 red candles, okay, I would look for this to roll over and make more lower lows. Okay, if they can't get back up and wipe out all 4 of those red candles. Okay, so I would need to see, for me to be bullish, green erases red. All right, they were holding the higher ground up here. Everything was looking good, but then they fell out of bed and made a lower low. See right here on the 2-hour. On the daily, all right, still in a daily downtrend, but not moving down. All right, they almost made a higher high right here. See that? So they negated the daily downtrend because you got a high there, and they made a higher low and a higher high. So that puts them in a daily uptrend right there on the daily chart. Okay, not a very convincing uptrend on the daily chart. So on the 2-hour, all right, you're back to a downtrend. So again, I'd love to see price take out those 4 candle highs right there. Those 4 candles, green erases red. You're obviously got resistance up here. I would need to break through resistance and hold the higher ground. All right, until that happens. So not only negate these 4 red candles to be bullish, but I'd also need them to break through resistance up here and hold the higher ground at 65. Okay, you got a bullish engulfing. See if you get follow through on that tomorrow. Does that make sense? RBRK, Roger? Yeah. Personally, not a big fan of the chart. I like trading the indexes better. But if you got a position or something like that, I can see somebody asking me about it. All right, so you got an uptrend here that, obviously got broken right there today. And they could recapture that tomorrow. But if they don't, look for this to roll over to the downside. A lot of work to do to get all the way back up there. We'll see what happens. Need some really good news. Yep. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Mel. T2122. Mel says show T2122. We're in the sell zone on T2122 after price gave us the middle finger a couple days ago. All right. They kind of told us this was coming. All right. Right there. All right. Roger, what time frame? Roger. Yeah, Tex is right on that. RBRK, it's in a consolidation. It's really sloppy and horrible. I would look for something cleaner, something with an edge. I just want to point out that you are showing an inverse head and shoulders. Okay? You are showing one. But you got to break the neckline, which is pretty much where I said where resistance is, right there. You break the neckline, you got to hold the higher ground. If you break that neckline, you can see the right arm extend up to where the left arm left off. So here's the left arm, and watch if they break the neckline, see the right arm extend where the left arm was. All right, you're showing an inverse head and shoulders, but again, you got to break the neckline first. All right, it can be done. We'll see what happens. All right, that's it for me for today. Oh, what did I trade? I traded, let me get my account up here. Traded the 500 strike puts. Okay. And I made 2 daily goals. Right there. Oh, look at that. I made a little bit more on the aftermarket. I'll take that. 2 daily goals. My daily goal is started a new $27,000 account. All right, so my daily goal is 1%, which is 270. I made 540. That's 2 daily goals for me. All right, and that's it right there. That's all I traded all day. And I bought 2 more puts at the close. All right, and if you want to see what it looks like when I trade the puts, all right, it's like this, and I buy the lows and sell the highs. So I'll show you what it looks like on a 3-minute chart. Okay, so I buy and I sell, and then I buy and I sell, and I reload and I sell. I buy and I sell the highs. See, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high. Buy, sell, break even, sell at the high. Reload, sell at the highs. Okay, and this was just closed right there. So with that, today, buying and selling, all right, made 540. Okay, just trading one product. And most of these are just one contract each. Bought one contract, sold one contract. Bought one contract, sold one contract. Bought one contract, sold one contract for more than it was worth. Bought one contract, bought another contract, sold this one for better than average. All right. Bought 2 more, sold these for better than average. Bought 1 more, sold that for better than average. That's my day for today. I like to trade the 10-minute downtrend under VWAP and the 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. That's it. All right, I'll see everybody tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll do it again. All right, appreciate it. Again, I don't see any signs of bulls anywhere. We're coming into earnings season. Maybe they come out of hibernation. We'll see what happens. Thanks, everybody. We can look tomorrow. We can look at it right now. MGNI. All right. Robert wants to look at MGNI. MGNI. On the daily chart. That's a downtrend. Still a downtrend. Looking like it's hooking here. They'd have to take out this high up here in order to get bullish. That's a downtrend, but it's in a pullback in the downtrend right now. It's a pullback in the downtrend with looking like a second igniting candle right there. Again, this is resistance right up overhead. See this double line right here? Okay, I would want to be on top of this, holding the higher ground. All right, either that or I would be selling anytime I got close to this, for fear that overnight they would jam it down on me. All right, so anything up here I would be taking my profits on if I got it lower down here. All right, Robert, for that one, MGNI, downtrend. So far, it's just not moving down the last 6 days. It's moving, it's actually been moving up. It's a pullback. Yeah. Thanks, Fred. Thanks, everybody. Benefits from Google. DOJ Thursday. All right. Keep us informed. Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Rod. Thanks, B. Thanks, JA. Thanks, Alyssa. Everybody have a beautiful evening. See you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. All right. Thanks, traders.